The Neil Haley Show and the Love Is podcast. I'm excited to welcome the host of the Love Is podcast, Kim Sorrell. Kim, how are you? And I know you're excited about our guest.
I'm doing great. Thanks, Neil. And yes, I am. Steve Weigand, who is a veteran journalist and history writer, 35 years, I believe, in the business. That's longevity for sure, Steve, in that business. And the author or co-author of 10 books. Your latest book just came out yesterday, I believe, on July 30. And it is fantastic. I know it's going to do so amazingly well. It's such a great story. The Uncommon Life of Danny O'Connell. Steve, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to meet you and so happy that you're here.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you wrote this book, but meanwhile, you were this kid collecting baseball cards back in the day. And one thing that I've been dying to ask you is how did it feel to have $500,000 worth of baseball cards clothespinned to the spokes of the wheels on your bike?
At the time, it felt great. Now, no, not so great.
It's amazing. I saw the whole baseball card thing because I did collect baseball cards. And when in my teenage years, I was gambling a lot of them away. And I have no idea where any of the others ended up being, but I collected basketball, baseball. It was a really a fun thing, mint condition. Always wanted a Roberto Clemente card. I wonder what a Roberto Clemente card is worth now, but I just never ever kept that collection going. That you think about some of the values of some of these cards and what they're worth today, and the opportunities that you and I had, Steve, to probably have the most valuable cards possible if we would have really been smartened up to the collection game.
Yeah, but you think about it, Neil, in those days, and I predate you by about a century, but you never attached any value other than the sentimental value you had for the players on it. And I remember when I was collecting cards, and this was back when dinosaurs were still roaming the earth. Uh, I wanted San Francisco Giants cards because I was a Giants fan. I hated Dodger cards. I don't care if it was Sandy Koufax or some Hall of Famer in the future. I didn't want the Dodger cards. And so that's sort of where Danny O'Connell came in, because every pack I bought when I was a kid, there was a Danny O'Connell card in it. I didn't know who the hell Danny O'Connell was, and I didn't want a Danny O'Connell card. Um, but at the time, baseball cards were worth a nickel. You got 5 of them or 6 of them for a nickel, and that's what they were worth. And I never dreamed that people would be paying millions of dollars for a piece of cardboard.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. And that you pay 5 cents and you get this little piece of gum that's kind of hard to chew. Hardly
Kind of,
makes a bubble,
yes.
right?
Right. A
More like a
dentist
piece of
dream.
cardboard.
Yeah, they were a dentist dream.
Yes, they were. Those and Tootsie Rolls. So Danny O'Connell represents not just himself, but so many players, right? I mean, there's so
Right.
many players. I always think about that with every sport, that you hear a few names. Like there's a few names everybody knows, even in Hollywood. I
Right.
can name just so many actors, but yet there's so many. And in baseball, when you're on a team, you rely on every single person on the team. It's not just the star shortstop or the star pitcher, who maybe everybody knows those names, but it's everybody on the team. And Danny was kind of that guy, right?
He was, yeah, that's exactly right. You think about baseball clubs, Major League Baseball clubs of 25, 26 players. One of them was Willie Mays. The rest of them are Danny O'Connell. And that's what intrigued me, because when I started looking into the guy's life, he's an average player. He's a common player. But if you look at numbers, there's no such thing as a common player in Major League Baseball. I'll give you a number real quick. Danny O'Connell was born in 1929. There were 1.1 million American males born in 1929. Of that 1.1 million, 93 made it to the major leagues.
Mm.
27 played for more than 10 years, and Danny O'Connell was one of them. So it just shows, even just getting to have a Major League Baseball career, the odds are very long against you that you're going to make it. So to me, that's not average. That's above average.
Oh, definitely. And it's just interesting to look at when you talk about this Danny O'Connell. I saw he played for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So when did he play for the Pirates?
He played that the Pirates were his first major league team, and he started in 1950 with them. Was third in the Rookie of the Year voting. Had a great season, and promptly was drafted because the Korean War was going on, and he spent 2 full years in the Army. So he didn't get off to a real great start because he had a promising year, and then he was drafted, and then he came back to the Pirates in 1953.
Right. And
You
we,
know, it's just so interesting to me because he could have been a hometown hero, right?
Right.
But probably unfortunately long forgotten. If you're in a small town in Iowa, maybe there's a statue of you because you're the only guy ever from this town in Iowa that ever made it to a major league of anything.
Right.
But when you're from a bigger area, you're one of many guys, maybe several guys that are from that area. And I think that's so sad. And at the time too, the salaries were a little different than they are today. So these guys, I think, were probably working off a season. They had to have jobs and try to play baseball and be the best that they could be. I wonder what that was like. What did you find out about that?
Well, that's an interesting point because the money was quite a bit different. Although he was playing in the 1950s primarily, he was making probably $14,000 a year average. That was 3 times what the average American family was making. So he was making pretty good money, but the average career was 5 years. So that meant by the time you were 32, you're looking for another job. He had to have other jobs in the off season. He was a postal delivery man. He worked for a beer company, and that meant he didn't stay in shape because he had to go to work every day. And so that's another difference between the way it is now and then. So it was much more for a guy like him. It was much more pack your lunch bucket and go to work every day kind of job than the glamorous part of that we now associate with big league sports figures.
No, Kim, yeah, absolutely. I wish I had more time, Kim. We could reminisce about baseball cards, but you have a love question, and I think we know the answer to this. But go ahead with your love question, Kim.
Yeah. So, Steve, I did this crazy thing. I dedicated a year to figuring out the true meaning of love, and the things that I found out just rocked my world, blew my mind. So, I'm curious for you, love of writing. You must love to write, I imagine, but love of sport, love of history. You're such a history buff and have done so much with history. What where did love play into this particular uh, journey that you took in Danny O'Connor's life, and what does it mean to you?
Well, that's a great question, and it was a real evolutionary path because, as I said, as a kid, I couldn't stand Danny O'Connell. I kept getting his baseball card. I didn't know who he was, and I didn't want it. As I got into it, I was mildly curious about who he was. So when I first started looking at stories, it was sort of like a first date or a blind date, even because I knew nothing about him. But when I got into the story, and after I had interviewed his kids and talked to his brother and sister, and I have nothing but admiration for the guy. I would love to have met him. He unfortunately died tragically at the age of 40 from a heart attack. But I would love to meet the guy. I think he's a true American hero, an everyday guy who provided for his family, did a job he loved, was well loved by his colleagues, and was just all around a great guy. And I feel proud to have known him now through this book, even though I never met him.
Wow. Well, the best place people can purchase your book and learn more about you, where can they go?
They can go anywhere they can buy a book. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, the local bookstore, which I heartily support. You can get an Audible as of August 12th. The ebook is out. So if you just Google the name of the book, you'll find some place to buy it.
What do you think of the Pirates? What are the chances? 7 games back. I can't believe it.
I,
This
you
time of
know,
the year.
I have no sympathy for Pirates fans because I'm a Giants fan, but I will say the they're in the mix. It seems like everybody in the National League is in the
He's in
mix.
the mix, but it's so shocking for the Pirates finally, after how many years since having a great team and then again having to sell it again. We've seen it
Well,
twice.
I love this new pitcher, this Paul Skeens.
Oh yeah,
Going to
he's
be a
he's
monster.
exciting. It's you never know. We'll see what happens. But it's great to see the Pirates winning and filling the stadium. It's a beautiful stadium, PNC Park. Well,
Yeah, it
we
really is.
appreciate it. We appreciate it, Steve. Thanks again for stopping by.
All right. Thanks, Neil. Thanks, Kim.
All right, that was a special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show on the